Alright, so I just want to get right into it. This is my experience with Malabar mushrooms. This happened about 2 years ago. What led me to it was I met a girl on Tinder. We only went on a couple dates, didn't go anywhere. But I found out that she was like a shaman girl in training, and took me a minute because she was kind of just filling me out to see if I wanted to like do a session with her or not. And it took me a few months, but I finally gave in. I was like, I'll give her a shot. And ended up really liking how the session went and had some cool experiences, and I might make videos on some of those other sessions. But eventually, after about 6 or so sessions with her, she offered a psilocybin session, particularly with Malabar mushrooms, which I guess are a mushroom that grows on like the east coast of India or something. They're really cute little, white stem, yellow cap mushrooms. And I guess these are supposed to, one thing she said is like they're really psychedelic, like they kind of give you like the neon lights kind of visual, like electric kind of vibe. And so that's all I really knew going into it. She came to my place with like her pillows and her palm leaves and all of her gear and stuff, and it was about a 3 or 4 hour session. She came over on a Sunday and she laid out these pillows for me to lay on. She gave me the mushrooms and some lemon water, I guess to kind of enhance it. She took a tiny bit herself, but I took like whatever the serving was. And so we do that, and she kind of warns me and says, hey, just so you know, these Malabar mushrooms are associated with the spirit. A lot of people in the spiritual community already get this concept, like ayahuasca, mother ayahuasca. All plants, medicines, stones, everything is connected to some kind of entity or some kind of spirit. So she kind of warned me and said, hey, you're most likely going to come into contact with an entity. And I started to ask questions what it looked like. She said, well, that just depends, and blah, blah, blah. So I just kind of trusted her. I really trusted this. I still trust. She's a great girl. I haven't seen her in a while, but awesome girl, good vibes. I had some really cool experiences with her. So I have her. She has my trust. And she's just this 100-pound little Lebanese girl, but just great energy. I believe she is called to be a shaman and some kind of a healer. So anyways, take the mushrooms, and I'm laying there. I lay down, and she's doing stuff around me, but I've got my eyes closed. So I'm laying on my cushion, and I've got my eyes closed, and all of a sudden I start to see like those electric neon, like flashes of light and energy, and thought that was pretty cool. Kind of started to get me in the mode there. And then sure enough, I'd say after about 35, maybe 40 minutes, I started to find myself in like a jungle. It kind of felt like the Amazon. It felt like kind of a very rainforesty place. And it was really weird because I came up on this place where it was like there was like a kitchen in the middle of a rainforest, but there was all this foliage growing over the countertops, and there was like pots and pans hanging with like ivy and stuff growing. It was pretty cool actually. And I'm sitting there in like this kitchen area, and then all of a sudden, sure enough, this entity shows up. And the best way I can describe it is it didn't really have a gender. I guess I would lean male, but it didn't seem to have a gender. But it was like a witch doctor, like dreads, kind of, very like cartoony kind of features. But the vibe I got was, it had like tribal attire on. Like the necklace with like kind of the horn thing, like kind of your typical like voodoo looking witch doctor, long hair. But the energy of this entity was what really caught me. It was very, very playful. It wasn't taking anything seriously. It was very just like, how you doing, And if anything, I was the more serious, like stiff one. And I remember when I came into contact with this entity, we're kind of acknowledging each other. And my first thought is like, oh, crap, this is actually happening. Like, okay, so I say to it, I'm like, I think we're supposed to like do some healing or something. And, I'm not going to remember every detail. It's, some of it, this was a couple years ago. And so that's why I need to hurry up and make this video so that I can get as many details in on record as I can. And so, I say, hey, I think we need to do some healing or something. And its energies is kind of like, all right, cool. What do you got? What do you got for me? What's up? Just again, not taking it too serious. That was the big vibe of this thing. And And for some reason, I instinctively grabbed one of the plates off the counter, and I think I started with my temper, like my anger, and for some reason I put my temper on this plate, and I was like, dude, I got a big temper, and it literally like takes the plate, and it like puts it on the counter behind it. Again, its energy is very like, whatever, like, okay, you know, and I'm like, all right, well, that was kind of a big deal to me, and it's just kind of like, whatever, next. I'm like, okay, so I took like regret, and I put it on the plate, and I like put it over to it, and you can look at it and be like, okay, cool. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, hey man, these are like heavy plates for me, and you're just kind of like discarding it. And I want to make a connection because I've done a lot of research, and I've looked into like gurus from India and like Buddhist teachers and Zen masters and stuff, and I noticed the way they are with their students. It seems like their energy is very similar to like this witch doctor. It's very like whatever. You know, it's like us Westerners go to India and submit to these gurus, and we bring all these Western problems, and they're just kind of like, okay, whatever. You know, they just mess with you. They fuck with you. They just something about them that's not taking it too serious, but yet we know there's like an enlightenment there. There's something there, and so I noticed that connection between this very like whatever energy, but also like, you know, I want to say that this entity had that whatever energy, but it's still also commanded by respect. I had respect for this entity. I knew that this entity was smarter, wiser, more intelligent. It just had a different attitude towards things. And I think that attitude is important, you know, when we're kind of looking for what the lessons and stuff and what is it trying to teach us. So I just want to emphasize that. And then when I gave it my regret plate, it looked at it, kind of put it aside, and it would actually grab my hand. And then we would become, it felt like we were becoming like the space between atoms. Like we were not bound to the physical realm, but we were able to navigate through it and feel it. It was just very weird, very weird. And so we would take my hand and we would do something, and somehow that would kind of like tweak my perspective of the pride, or not pride, but the regret that I had. You know, so then I would say, okay, wow. So then we'd go back to the kitchen, and I'd put my pride on a plate. Be like, what's up with all this pride? You know, like, well, what do I do here? And I'd take my hand, and I think it was the pride, where it took my hand. We became the energy. We became the space between the atoms again, and we're flowing. And then all of a sudden, it turns me into this organism, like a microscopic organism. Like when you look through a microscope and you just see it's like literally a little bubble with little legs coming off it. Like that's the organism. And I became that. And I remember the first thing I tried to do was like move as the organism, but I was trying to move the way I move, you know, which was very, you know, I'm a very high energy, aggressive. I have abrupt energy, you know. That's just how I am, and I kind of move like that physically at the same time. You know, when I walk, I'm usually, you know, a very fast walker. I'm kind of a bull in a china shop. So that's just me. And so I try to be that in this entity, or in this organism, and it just, I shredded its body. I mean, just trying to move, just destroyed this entity. And so the witch doctor would make me become that organism again. It would give me another chance to be that organism. And I tried to be a little slower, but I ended up ripping its body again. Like, hey, you know, I think it took about 5 attempts for me to finally realize, dude, you gotta slow down. This thing doesn't move like you do. You've got to, and it's so funny that of all the things that could have made me, it made me an incredibly, you know, vulnerable, sensitive organism. You know, it's not, I'm not a surprise. I'm not surprised that that's what it made me. Because I had to move so slow and gracefully just to not destroy this organism, to destroy this body of this thing. And I finally figured it out. And by the time I figured it out, I was like, dude, this is kind of sweet. Like, I can do this. And so, but the Malabar spirit ended up pulling me out. You know, it was like, as soon as I figured it out, it pulled me out of it. I was like, I wanted to go back and be that organism, but we had more things to do. And so, I just want to make sure I remember this totally the way it happened. So I believe we did that. We came back, and then we came back to the kitchen. And gosh, man, the details are getting a little blurry. I just remember it laughing. It was laughing at a lot of the things I was bringing. It wasn't like laughing at me. It was laughing at, I know now, I've thought about this a lot, and I've tried to put it together as much as I could, but it was laughing at my perspective. And I'm just going to cut to the point of like what this lesson was and what it really taught me. And what it taught me was, and this is totally how I am in life, you know, I have an issue, I have a problem where I expect people to move at my pace. I expect people to process things the way I process things. You know, I don't leave room for other slower organisms, for people, even humans. It doesn't have to be another organism, just people in general move at different paces. And I have like a zero tolerance for it, and it's kind of insane. And so this lesson for me was like, dude, you gotta slow down. I got to actually feel what it feels like to be one of the most delicate organisms that probably exists, and I made it work somehow. So I am capable of compromising and, you know, adjusting, you know, my perspective, my view. And what's really interesting is I remember when the session wrapped up, I was very hazy and very like, whoa, but I knew something really awesome just happened. And I remember my shaman girl, she eventually left. I remember she promised, she was like, promise me you will not ride your motorcycle today. And I didn't ride my motorcycle, but I did take my van, and I did go down to the store a little bit. I wasn't like tripping. I was just a little hazy, kind of coming in and out of it. And this is really important. This is probably one of the most impactful parts of it, because I was able to associate that feeling with also like who I am, ego, and, you know, Travis. And so I'm kind of bouncing between coming back to my body, still being in this weird state, and right away I get behind somebody and they're just driving super slow, you know, really slow. But I'm going back and forth. I'm still hazy. I'm just like, I'm not really attached to the situation, but I can also feel where ego Travis is like, yo man, what the hell? What's going on here? But then, you know, other better version, higher Travis is going, what do we care? Who cares? Like, and I'm also putting together what I just experienced, the organism, and it's hitting me, and I'm going, oh my gosh, like this is what it is. This is your problem. See, this is you're getting an example right away of where I don't leave room for other people to have their pace or whatever. There's a million reasons why that person would be driving that way. Okay. It's just a matter of perspective, though. It's just simply a matter of acceptance, allowance, and also understanding that those people that I deem slow or you know, or stupid, they're totally necessary. They're totally playing a role, and it also might not be what I think it is. It might not be a matter of stupidity or inconsideration. It might be, you know, one of the 9 million other reasons. But it was really important for me to be able to feel that going to and from, because I would go from like, this motherfucker needs to, you know, what are you doing? To like, I don't care. And because I still had the mushrooms in my body a little bit, I could actually go to that place of like, I don't care. And just to, you know, tell you, I didn't get upset at all. I wasn't irritated, but I was able to like really feel and monitor that part of me that was irritated, that was, you know, really full of shit. And I was just able to see like, dang, and that was really the first time in my life I really realized and felt firsthand like how rigid my energy is, and how ridiculous my expectations are of people in the world, and it's really crazy. So that was a really powerful experience, to be able to feel my ego wanting to bitch, but then also be connected with this part of myself that totally realizes how full of shit that ego is, and how full of shit that perspective is, and how waste of energy it is, and just all the things that are wrong with that. So that was, for the most part, that was my Malabar mushroom experience. I came into contact with a witch doctor. Its laughing, playful energy taught me that, and this is what I think the big kicker is. Again, let's go back to the Westerners who go to India to submit to these gurus, and you know, they bring in their Western problems. And here's what I think these gurus are essentially trying to achieve in these students. And it's pretty much that, like, let's take my temper plate, my anger plate. That's a heavy plate, right? I gave it to the entity, and it was just like, whatever. To me, that was heavy, right? Okay, well, that's just it. What the entity needed me, or was trying to get me to understand, is that the weight of that plate was simply a matter of my perspective of it. So I view my temper, my anger, my short fuse as a burden, man. This is heavy on my back. And the entity's going, no, it's not. But you are making it. Your mind is making it heavy. Your perspective is what makes it heavy. So there's your anger. What else is heavy on your back that is also a matter of perspective? That is also a matter of tweaking your view of it, or tweaking, it's the difference of the world is out to get me versus the world is helping me out. It's the difference between life is fucking me right now versus, man, life is trying to teach me something pretty important right now. It's that mindset. I'm an angry piece of shit. Well, you're a passionate person, and that passion is a double-edged sword, and that passion is going to create a lot of conflict in your life, but it's also going to get you out of some hot water, and it's going to make you a person that's hard to screw over, and hard to scam, hard to work one over on, So there are times where that energy really helps me, but then there are times where it creates conflict and controversy where it really doesn't need to be. And so the mushrooms really help me kind of see a version of myself that's not healthy and that needs to be worked on and cultivated. And the answer isn't to just put that fire out, because that fire in me is what creates my temper, but it also creates my passion. So I've got to find the balance between the two. So that's why I like to say I need to cultivate that temper. I need to cultivate that passion, that emotion. So that was really important for me. Also, just realizing it's a matter of perspective, that things are a matter of perspective, that a lot of the things that we carry as burdens, as weight, if we really saw the situation for what it really was and how it was actually benefiting us, realizing that all adversity is a teacher and benefiting us to some degree, and that the most difficult times in life hold the biggest opportunities and the biggest potential for change and growth, but it's super hard to realize it when you're in the thick of it. But I do understand now that it is a matter of perspective. And that doesn't make it easier when the storm comes and you're in the thick of it, but it does give you some foundational understanding. It does give you a foundational kind of belief. It's a kind of a faith thing. It's something that you just have in the back of your mind that even when shit hits the fan, what's the lesson? What do I need to take out of this here? And this all comes down to accountability. One of my favorite words and one of the things I'm really big about right now, mainly getting myself to be accountable, but this all comes down to being accountable for your shit. Don't be a victim. Own up to your stuff. Realize that you're the manifester of your reality. You're the nucleus of everything happening in your life right now, whether it's good or bad or stagnant, mediocre, whatever. You're the nucleus of it. You're the driving force of it. It's not your parents. It's not the economy. It's not what happened to you when you were a kid. It's you. It's you are the generator of it. So yeah, I think for the most part that's all I can really say about it. It was a super powerful experience. I wouldn't take it back for the world. And if anyone's considering doing like a Malabar mushroom experience, I'd say if you feel called to it, you feel right, you feel ready, and especially if you got someone like a shaman or a healer or someone to be there and navigate. It wasn't cheap, man. That thing ran me like $500, but it was worth it. I think it was totally worth it. So, powerful experience. I recommend it to people that are ready, but just know it's not a party thing. This is again, I don't take mushrooms now and go party and do other drugs on top of that. When I do mushrooms now, I'm closing my eyes. I'm going inward, and I haven't had like a really bad trip, but I haven't had any like significant breakthroughs either. That Malabar trip was really kind of like the real, I don't want to say it was a breakthrough. It was a breakthrough in understanding, but I still have to fight the same struggles. I still have the same ego. I have to fight the same ego every day, So I'll go ahead and wrap it up there. A good experience. I wouldn't take it back. In fact, I think I want to do it again eventually. So that's that. So Appreciate you listening. And just for the record, I'm never going to turn into a so like and subscribe, because I don't give a shit. I don't care who sees this. I don't care who doesn't see it. You know, in a way, this is for me. So, here's what it is.